Good morning, everyone. Let's just take this God breath and we're going to breathe. Let's take another God breath and breathe. As we go into meditation today, I want you to relax, sit comfortably in your chair, move your head from side to side, and just take another God breath and breathe. And so, in this moment, as you take this God breath, we are breathing in the oneness. Take that breath and feel the oneness with God, one with the universal presence. Breathe. However you got here today, whatever you're doing, take the time now to just relax. Take another breath and relax. Take another God breath and breathe. Know that there's only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. And that life is mine. As we take this God breath, we breathe. As we take this God breath, we breathe. We bring our awareness back into the sacred space, fully conscious, knowing exactly where you are, moving your head side to side. Just continue to feel your fingertips and know you're fully present. And as we take this God breath, we breathe. And in this God breath, we give thanks for this beautiful meditation today. Know that you are loved. Know that you are appreciated. Namaste. This concludes.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living Redlands. My name is Ed Torres, and I'm one of the board members. And I wanted to just share with you today that our March theme is Open to Possibilities. Welcome and enjoy the service. Thank you.
I'm in the right place at the right time, just where I'm supposed to be. I'm in the right place at the right time, just where I'm supposed to be. And my soul is welcome here. My soul is welcome here. I am getting the message loud and clear. My soul is welcome here. I'm in the right place at the right time, just where I'm supposed to be. I'm in the right place at the right time, just where I'm supposed to be. And my soul is welcome here. My soul is welcome here. I am getting the message loud and clear. My soul is welcome here. 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 Yeah. My soul is welcome here. My soul is welcome here. My soul is welcome here. My soul is welcome, and my soul is welcome here. My soul is welcome here. I am getting a message loud and clear. Getting a message loud and clear. Getting a message loud and clear. My soul is welcome here.
Thank you, Gilman. Then thank you everyone for being here this morning, all of you on Zoom and all of us here in the sanctuary. Again, we have about 50 people in here today. Just doing a little visualization this morning. And the truth is that our soul is always welcome here. No matter who you are or where you are on your spiritual journey, you're always welcome here. My name is Reverend Carrie Masters, and I'm the senior minister and spiritual leader here. And I'm so happy that we are an open and inclusive community that honors all people from every background, all races, sexual orientations, gender expressions, and spiritual paths. Our purpose is to awaken humanity to its spiritual magnificence, and our vision is a world that works for everyone. If you are here with us for the very first time this morning, I'd like to invite you to raise your hand and just give us a wave. Wonderful. Yay. Thank you for being here. And now let's welcome everyone to our service. So we can open up the microphones on Zoom and we can wave to each other and say good morning.
Morning, good morning.
Morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Thank you, Renee, for that beautiful meditation.
Oh, thank you for listening.
Beautiful.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yes, that was a beautiful meditation.
Who are the new people in the sanctuary?
There are 6 people in our sanctuary, 7, 8, including me and David.
Woohoo!
Hi, everybody. Good morning.
Hi, good morning, everybody.
Good morning, good morning.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for being here. And now we will have Gilman share his centering music with us this morning, and then we'll have our opening prayer.
In this very room, there's quite enough love for one like me. And in this very room, there's quite enough joy for one like me. And there's quite enough hope and quite enough power to chase away any gloom. For spirit, one spirit is in this very room. In this very room, there's quite enough love for all of us. And in this very room, there's quite enough joy for all of us. And there's quite enough hope and quite enough power to chase away any gloom. For spirit, one spirit is in this very room. In this very room, there's quite enough love for all the world. And in this very room, there's quite enough joy for all the world. And there's quite enough hope and quite enough power to walk through our every fear. For spirit, one spirit is in this very room. In this very room. In this very room.
So as we take this God breath, we breathe. And in this moment, what we're knowing in this very moment is that God is all that there is. I know that God is perfection. God is harmony. God is love. God is perfect wholeness right here, right now. And so in this moment, what I know is that I am one with the universal presence. So then I know that we are one with the universal presence that's moving in us and through us and all around us today. So in this day, we take that God breath and we breathe. Because what we know in this very moment that with this breath that God gave us, God's breath breathing through us, as us, right here, right now. And so as we take this God breath, we in celebration of this truth. We in celebration of this oneness with perfect balance. So as we take this God breath, we breathe in, fully conscious and aware of that God is all that there is. And so knowing this, we bless this day that God has made. We bless our steps. We bless our mind. We bless our bodies right here, right now. And as we take that breath and we breathe, we give thanks for this truth. We give thanks for harmony. We give thanks for peace. We give thanks for love for the world today. And as we take this breath, we just breathe and send the highest vibration of loving light energy to the world right now. Let's take that breath and breathe. Take another God breath and breathe. And as we take that breath, we are blowing out harmony to the world, peace to the world, love to the world, perfect healing, perfect wholeness right here, right now. As we breathe, we're knowing that God is at the core center of it all. And in this truth, we give thanks for all of it. And in this, I just release my words into the universal law. And I know that it's perfect. And I know it is complete. And if you all in agreement with this prayer, we will say, and so it is. Amen. Ashe.
Our reading for today comes from the book, The Pathway of Roses by Christian Larson. He writes this: when you know that you are greater than any undeveloped condition that may exist in mind or body, you gain the power to transcend limitations. Your consciousness begins to break bounds, and you find yourself in that larger, richer mental world that you so long have desired to reach. You are placed in touch with the universal and begin to draw upon the limitless for wisdom and power and joy. You no longer feel cramped, but realize that you are absolutely free to live the largest, the best, and the most beautiful life that you can possibly picture. The ideals that you discover during the highest flights of mind and soul are no longer considered impossibilities. You know that you can realize them all. To you, there is no failure because the good that is within you is greater than all failure. You are above limitations. You are the master of limitations and have the power to transform every undeveloped condition into the highest form of completeness and superior worth. The less is passing away, and the greater is being realized in an ever increasing measure.
Hello, I am Edward Fillion. March's suggested theme is Open to Possibilities. And here are the suggested topics: living in the question, release and let go, with open arms, and commit to transformation. So clearly, this month, as we talk about being open to possibilities, we must speak of the spiritual practice called visioning. Now, you may be familiar with another spiritual practice called visualization. That's the method of forming a mental image of some desired good. In the way of visualization, we might begin with an idea in mind, something that we want to experience, and then we use our beautiful imagination to add details to it. What does it feel like? What does it look like? How do I want this particular good to be part of my life? Now, visioning is a little different. Instead of starting with an idea of some good in mind, we begin with the practice of openness. We might say we release and let go of our thoughts, or you could say even start with emptying your mind. In reality, we can't empty our minds of ideas. What we can do, though, is adopt an attitude of openness by silently asking ourselves a question, such as, what in divine mind is the highest idea for my life? When I'm practicing visioning, I ask myself such questions almost as if I were addressing an incredibly wise being, like the oracle at Delphi, but one that I don't have to travel long distances to see, because it is a presence that is conveniently located in my own consciousness. And then, once we've inquired within, we are to adopt an attitude of openness. We mentally open our arms to catch what comes into awareness. Not only do we adopt an attitude of openness, but we also try to let go of preconceived ideas as much as possible. And there is something else we have to deal with. The nature of the voice of the presence within, similarly to the oracle's response at Delphi, it can be mysterious and not immediately apparent. Do you know that people would travel great distances to consult the oracle, and they had to bring gifts, and they had to purify themselves before the consultation? It was a profoundly serious undertaking, maybe even a once-in-a-lifetime journey, to be approached with commitment, mindfulness, sincerity, and openness. Heraclitus, the ancient Greek philosopher, explained it like this, saying, the Lord, whose oracle is at Delphi, neither indicates clearly nor conceals, but gives a sign. I love that. In other words, the utterances of the oracle were famously ambiguous and had to be mindfully interpreted. I mention this because the spiritual practice of visioning shares some elements with the ancient visions of the oracle. Visioning is an inner practice. Now, it may require no journey and no third party between you, me, and the divine. It starts with the idea that the divine can be expressed within us in a unique way. And here's where it has something to compare with the oracle. Because this good, unique way may be something new, may be something we've never experienced or known before, we may have to interpret what comes through. Now, as with all spiritual practices, we do well to prepare ourselves before we vision. You could call that purification, if you will, or centering, or meditating. It's whatever you and I do to attain a calm, attitude of mind before we get into the questions, before we ask, what is Spirit's highest idea of itself as my life? As an individualized expression of the one infinite reality, we have access to infinite wisdom and intelligence, the intelligence of the ultimate reality. And it flows through us, well, to the degree that we set our previous ideas aside and become larger, more willing channels for it to express. My blessings to you.
You gotta accentuate the positive and eliminate the negative and latch on to the affirmative. Don't mess with Mr. In Between. You gotta spread joy up to the maximum and bring gloom down to the minimum and have faith or pandemonium's liable to walk upon the scene. To illustrate my last remark, Jonah in the whale, Noah in the ark. What did they do just when everything looked so dark? Man, they said we better accentuate the positive and eliminate the negative and latch on to the affirmative. Don't mess with Mr. In Between. You gotta accentuate the positive and eliminate the negative and latch on to the affirmative. Don't mess with Mr. In Between. To illustrate my last remark, Jonah in the whale, Noah in the ark. What did they do just when everything looked so dark? Man, I said we better accentuate the positive and eliminate the negative and latch on to the affirmative. Don't mess with Mr. In Between. No, don't mess with Mr. In Between.
Thanks, Gilman. All right. Well, this morning we are going to begin a month-long series on visioning. And this morning I'm going to do an introduction to visioning and how it works in our life and how we can use it as a spiritual practice. So today's title is Living in the Question, a High Idea. The visioning team for Centers for Spiritual Living are the people who put together the outlines for this month's and talks and also came up with the theme. So their wisdom is with us as we move through this month. So before we dip into visioning, I want to explain the difference between visualization and visioning. Visualization is something that's been around for a long time. There have been books and speakers and all sorts of people introducing this concept to the world. And every one of them has helped an abundance of people to visualize what it is they want to have in their life so that they can manifest it. Because you see, every thought that we think is powerful. Every thought. My sister, who is on the third balcony this morning, she told me a long time ago that every word that we speak is a prayer, and God always says yes. I said God because we know that it's a universal law that this law always says yes to what it is we want. So visualization is a way for us to picture in our minds what we would like to have happen in our lives. When I was new to this teaching, I was into visualization like nobody's business. And at one point, I read someplace where a person could visualize themselves sitting in a movie theater and the curtains opened on the screen. And then the screen came alive with a picture of me and a picture of someone else with whom I had a disagreement. And then it was my visualization of a healing over this disagreement that took place on the screen of my mind. And I want you to all to know that that's exactly what happened. We had a conversation, then the whole situation healed itself. It was almost magical. And then there was a time that this was back in the 70s. I really wanted a microwave oven, and it was the newest thing out, and it would help me fix dinner in a flash. And so I declared my desire for a microwave oven. I began to picture it in my kitchen on my counter. I began to talk about it while I was fixing dinner and stirring stuff in a pot, saying, okay, my microwave's working really great. And my husband would say, when's dinner going to be ready? And I'd say, just as soon as the microwave dings. He thought I had lost my mind. And there was a microwave store near our home that was having free lessons every once in a while on a Saturday, cooking lessons on how to cook in a microwave. So I went to one of those and I thought, okay, now I know how to cook in one. I'm seeing it in my kitchen. Well, this went on for several months. And then one day my mom called and she said, are you going to be home today? Yes, I am. And she said, well, I would like to bring you something. Dad and I will be over around 2. And so they came and I opened the door and saw them both carrying this enormous microwave. You remember how big they used to be back in the day? So they were both on either side carrying this microwave into my house. And I was astounded. They put it on my kitchen counter right where I had visualized it. I hadn't told them that, that's where it goes. I visualized it and I manifested it. And they received that microwave free for going to a timeshare presentation. They got their free microwave and brought me their old one. And that thing didn't die for another 10 years. It just kept on going. So you see, the whole idea of visualization for me was really exciting. I could bring things into my life that I really wanted. Now, visualization is great. It's a wonderful tool to use. And there is a bit of a limitation around using visualization because our minds think about things that we want according to what we have already experienced in the world. So my idea of a microwave oven was limited to the microwave oven. So by unlimiting ourselves, we can take a step into visioning. Now, moving away from visualization means that we need to give up control over what happens. And for some of us, I'm included, giving up control was a really tough thing to do. But when we go into using visioning, we're asking, what is the highest idea that Spirit has for my life? I could have, instead of visualizing a microwave oven, I could have gone into visioning and said, what is the highest idea for the appliances in my kitchen? What is the highest idea for my life? And when we do that, what we're doing is placing ourselves in a place of surrender. This is not about control. This is about saying, okay, I am ready to accept what I don't even know might happen. It's kind of exciting. And when you think about all of the times that we have tried to, I guess I have to speak for myself. We try to bring something into existence, and sometimes it doesn't happen. And sometimes we get our visualization all messed up. And then nothing happens. Or when it does happen, we're disappointed. Well, that's not quite what I wanted. I'm going to try it again. But envisioning, it takes us up another step into a place where we can tap into the idea, the greater idea that Spirit has for our life. There is something within each one of us, all of us. There is that something within us that is longing to express itself. And when we allow ourselves to surrender to the divine idea that Spirit might have for our life, what we are doing is allowing that something to come forward and express itself more fully. It's an awesome way to live. I was once the minister at the Center for Spiritual Living in Hemet. Hemet's Center for Spiritual Living, back then it was known as the First Church of Religious Science of Hemet. And it was a long time ago. Anyway, they have 2 domed buildings connected by a connector. And the smaller of the 2 buildings, we had an idea that perhaps we could have a labyrinth, a canvas labyrinth that we could lay out on the floor and invite the community in to come and walk the labyrinth. We had the idea, and then a group of us in that church got together and we visioned for it. We did visioning sessions constantly for that. Probably, I would say we got together once a month to do our visioning process, and then we get together another time during the month to see what details we needed to work out about getting this canvas labyrinth. And the vision that came to us was there are various patterns of labyrinths. And we had the vision, all of us caught the vision of a rose. And so our labyrinth was the design, I think they called it a rose labyrinth. I could be wrong, it's been a while, but there was a place in that labyrinth where we could set a little table or an altar, and it was to just kind of set the tone for the walking of that labyrinth. So this went on for several months, and then a friend of mine, a colleague of mine who was also in ministry, told me that she was a labyrinth minister, and she was getting ready to move to New Zealand. So she wanted to sell a big roll of canvas to our center. And when she asked me if we would like to have that, I said, yes. We worked out the details. The next weekend, it was in our center. And because we didn't have a large small children ministry in that center at the time, we put that roll of canvas in the nursery. And we would pray around it, and we'd have some treatment around it, knowing that it would unfold to be this beautiful labyrinth. Long story short, it made its way, because of us, into the sanctuary where it could be in the corner where the practitioners would sit for high watch every Sunday. So the vibration began to really take hold, and the visioning continued on into this labyrinth. And it seemed like it took a long time to actually lay the labyrinth out and paint all of the lines on the labyrinth, but it got done. And it was amazing how many people came to do some painting on the labyrinth. It was amazing. And we had several wonderful labyrinth events that allowed the community to come into our center to just walk that beautiful labyrinth. But it was as though Spirit knew that there was something greater than what we were thinking, because we were thinking quite a bit smaller. This labyrinth filled up the entire small dome of that church, the floor, almost the whole floor. There was just room enough to walk around the edges. So there was something bigger waiting for us to happen. And we allowed that to come through us by visioning, by allowing ourselves to surrender to a greater idea. Now, the thing about visioning is that we need to be curious. We need to be curious because there are questions during the visioning process that are asked that allows us to find out not only what the highest idea is, but what does it look like or sound like or feel like? And then we get to sit in that to find out what it does look like, sound like, or feel like. And then we get to ask, what is it that I must release in order for this vision to come forward? And what must I embrace? You see, life is all about releasing and embracing. And so sometimes we need to release things in order to embrace the greater things. So releasing and embracing are a part of this process. And we stay curious so that we can sense the answer coming through. The process seems kind of mysterious at times, especially for people who take the word visioning and equate it to their eyes. That's not quite where we are with visioning. Visioning is more than seeing something. It's a sense, it's a feeling tone. You see, this allows us to have to have control over the power that is within us, to allow ourselves to step into a greater idea. And then we move into that place where we know that the product of the visioning is coming forth. And we know it's greater than anything we could imagine. And right here is where we trust. We take the time to trust. And sometimes it seems like it takes forever for things to happen in life. But it's the same way when we plant a seed to grow a vegetable or a flower or a tree. When we plant an acorn, that acorn has a greater idea of itself than that small little acorn, and it must grow out of its smallness to become the oak tree. And that's what we're doing when we're envisioning, and we trust that we are an acorn with a greater vision for our life. Does that make sense? Yeah. Michael Beckwith he's a minister in Los Angeles, and he has, for the last 20 or more than 20 years, has had a wonderful ministry there that is filled to the rafters. And Michael Beckwith kind of came to this idea of visioning and has written books. He wrote a book called Life Visioning. He's on YouTube. I invite you to go to YouTube and listen to him speak about visioning. He is a master at teaching this process. He says, when your thoughts and actions begin to align with the imperatives of your soul, you enroll in the full support of the universe. There's an imperative within you that wants to come forth. He also says unimagined possibilities begin to open up as you synchronize with the divine. So this month, we're talking about synchronizing ourselves with the divine idea, with the higher idea, so that we can move forward in our lives. And our life, everything that we do in our life, affects another life on this planet. And so our highest idea will affect our Center for Spiritual Living. It will affect all centers, all churches, all mosques, all synagogues. It will affect all schools, all children, all parents. You see, we are a part of this ripple effect that is bringing a higher idea to our planet. Yes? All right. So this week, I invite you to have this as your spiritual practice. I invite you to take a moment during the day just to be quiet, just for a moment, and just ask, what is Spirit's highest idea of itself as my life? And then just sit quietly and see if something comes to you. It may not right then, but the more you ask, the more information you get. And the more you do it, the more you fall in love with that whole idea, Spirit's highest idea of itself as me and my life. And that's where we need to come from. So that's part of your spiritual practice this week, to ask that question in a state of curiosity and trust, and knowing that you'll be able to remain open to all possibilities in your life today and always. Our affirmation for this week is this: my life is the embodiment of Spirit's highest idea of itself as me. So let's repeat that. I'll say a few words and then you can repeat after me. My life is the embodiment of Spirit's highest idea of itself as me. And so it is. Namaste.
My life goes on in endless song, above earth's lamentations. I hear the real, though far off hymn that hails a new creation. Through all the tumult and the strife, I hear its music ringing. It sounds an echo in my soul. How can I keep from singing? While though the tempest loudly roars, I hear the truth it liveth. And though the darkness round may close, songs in the night it giveth. No storm can shake my inmost calm, while to that rock I'm clinging, since love is Lord of heaven and earth. How can I keep from singing? When tyrants tremble in their fear and hear their death knell ringing, when friends rejoice both far and near, how can I keep from singing? In prison cell and dungeon while our thoughts to them are winging, when friends by shame are undefiled, how can I keep from singing? I lift my eyes, the cloud grows thin, I see the blue above it, and day by day this pathway clears. Since first I learned to love it, the peace of God restores my soul, a fountain ever springing. All things are mine since I am loved. How can I keep from singing? How can I keep from singing? How can I keep from singing?
Thank you, Gilman. Well, good morning again. The announcements for this Sunday is join us every Wednesday evening from 7 to 8 p.m. is our meditation service on Facebook Live, facilitated by our practitioner, Dr. Renee Hart. She presents a beautiful meditation and inspiration. If any of you have ever experienced it, you know what I mean. And those, if you haven't, check it out on Facebook. It's wonderful. And receive your facelift every Wednesday from 7 to 8 p.m. on Facebook Live. Also, please join us after Sunday service, where we will have in the Zoom room fellowship services. And thank you very much.
Thanks, Ed. We're going to move into the time for our offering. And this is the time where we get to give where we've been spiritually fed. And giving to our spiritual nourishment allows that spiritual nourishment to continue to flourish and grow and to become a part of our lives and a part of the lives of everyone that we know and don't know. So the law of circulation says that when we give, we also receive. And there are many ways to give to our Center for Spiritual Living. You can write a check, of course, or give cash. We have a giving bowl here in the sanctuary. If you're away from church, you can mail your check to our center. You can also donate online using Facebook or our website at cslredlands.org. And you can also donate using Zelle through your bank and PayPal and Venmo as well. So there's many ways to give, and there's many ways to allow that law of circulation to bring more good into your life. So let's take a moment to place our gift, if we have it, over our heart and repeat our offering affirmation together. From the love of pure spirit within me, I bless this gift. I send it forth to heal and bless and prosper. It is evidence of my faith and my belief. It does great work in the world, and it returns to me multiplied abundantly. And so it is.
As I give, so do I receive, joyfully and gratefully. As I give, so do I receive, fully and freely. God is a river where abundance flows. Stepping into it, I accept and know. As I give, so do I receive. As I give, so do I receive, offering my first and best. As I give, so do I receive, knowing how I've been comes, flows, stepping into it, I accept and know as I give, so do I receive. As I give, so do I receive. As I give, so do I receive.
Thank you, Gilman. And thank all of you for giving and for just being a participating person in our Center for Spiritual Living. We appreciate your gifts always. It's now time for our healing and closing prayer. And so I'm going to invite you to turn within with me as we just allow ourselves to relax into that healing place that we know as the infinite, the divine, God. We recognize this divine presence. This divine presence is everywhere. It is all knowing. It is all wise. It is that power and presence that moves the universe, that creates all that is. And this power and presence is infinite love, absolute joy, complete peace, and perfection on every level. And this presence has created all life from itself, and therefore has created our lives. We are one with that presence. That presence is one with us. We are one with each other. We are unified in that infinite love that has created us and continuously creates our lives. And so in this unity, I speak my word for all those who may be experiencing a challenge, a difficulty, a problem, an illness. Maybe there's financial issues. Perhaps there is work that needs to come in order to fill the lives of all those we know and ourselves with purpose and with joy. So I know that every person who is desiring to be whole and perfect and complete, free of any dis-ease, free of any discomfort, I know that this healing is already in place. This wholeness is already being revealed, because actually there's nothing to heal. There's only God to be revealed within all life. And so I know that this is true for every person, for every animal, for every plant, for our planet. I know this is true for all life throughout the universe. I speak my word to know that every church in this community and beyond is blessed with all of those who come forward to be a part of something bigger than themselves. And I give thanks for our Center for Spiritual Living here in Redlands. We do great work here, and I know that as our work continues and unfolds, I know that the highest idea is unfolding, not only for our center, but for all that we do to create a world that works for all people. I speak my word this morning for each one of us here in the sanctuary, each one of us here on Zoom, and all of those who are not with us here today, physically or electronically. We simply know that each individual is guided and directed to their perfect place to be in every moment. And I know for each of us who are here this morning, I know that we are guided and directed through this day, through our lives, and I know that we are whole. We are complete. We are perfect, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. It is who we are. Wholeness, perfection, peace, joy. And so I know that the words that I have spoken are already placed into that divine creative power of the universe that we call the law, that law that brings forth all life. I know that the words that I have spoken are already coming into manifestation perfectly and completely. And I am so grateful to know this truth. I'm so grateful to know that the presence of the divine hears us and says, yes, yes, yes. I'm so grateful. And so in this gratitude and in this knowing, I release these words into that law, knowing that they are already complete, that they are already manifest, that life is already unfolding for each one of us in the most grand and powerful way that it does. And so we just simply allow it to be, and we can all say together, and so it is. Amen.
There was a time in my life, thought I had to do it all by myself. I didn't know the grace of God was sufficient. Didn't know the love of God was at hand. Now I can say, if you are discouraged, struggling just to make it through another day, you gotta let it go, let it all go. This is what you have to say. I release and I let go. I let the Spirit run my life, and my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only here for God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God. I release and I let go. I let the Spirit run my life, and my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only here for God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God. I release and I let go. Let the Spirit run my life, and my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only here for God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God.
Thank you, Gilman. Well, I want to thank everyone for joining us today for our Sunday service here at Center for Spiritual Living Redlands. And stay tuned for the Zoom room. Just stay connected, and we will see you there. And soon we'll be looking forward to seeing many of you back here.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Melody, please take some home. Yeah, Melody, yes. Everybody take some home.
Where's the Zoom room?
It's there.